good afternoon, and welcome to our presentation, Best Practices Social Media Engagement. Today, we're going to learn some strategies to help you turn your social media from just a simple outreach tool into a valuable asset for building relationships and engaging your prospects. So don't worry about taking a lot of notes. The recording of this webinar, as well as the slides you see here, will be shared with you after the webinar for your convenience. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please submit them in the panel. If we're unable to get to them for any reason, we're happy to follow up with you after the webinar to address it. So let's get started. My name is Deneen. I'm your host and the Marketing Manager for Technology Advisors. And now we're going to meet our presenters. I'd first like to welcome back Brandon Contreras. He's the Channel Manager at Act-On. Brandon's been a great presenter for us throughout this Best Practices series. This webinar is actually the last in that series, but if you'd like to view the first two or browse other educational webinars, they're posted on our website at techadv.com under the Webinars tab. Brandon, thanks for being here once again.
Deneen, always a pleasure to present with you and Technology Advisors, and even better when we have the social slayer with us, Mr. Jack Kozakowski. Deneen, go ahead and give props to Jack. I don't want to take away your introductory fire.
Well, the other wonderful presenter we have with us today is Jack Kozakowski. He's the Global Head of B2B Social Sales Strategy at Creation Agency. Social media is Jack's specialty, and we are so happy to have him with us today. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Excited to be here. You know, with my boy BC. Back in the day, we go back way back. So let's get into this, BC.
So this should be an interesting webinar. All right, let's take a look at today's agenda and get started.
So, you know, let me kickstart this, Deneen, because I know how you typically like to do the agenda, but I'm gonna steal the agenda fire. Jack and I have done this time and time again, and the most effective way for us in presenting this is more, you know, Jack and I dialogue, probably too much to our demise. And these presentations now have become this back and forth banter, and we've gotten, you know, great feedback, huge feathers in our cap, great kudos in doing this. So our back and forth banter today is obviously centered around social media engagement. Now, understand that having Jack, as mentioned, kind of the social slayers, you know, Jack has catapulted himself into the arena of social selling as social sales advisor for creative agency, etc. And it is great to present side by side with him in our back and forth banter and going through this. Deneen, you're going to be monitoring the chat box. As individuals have questions, commentary, etc., obviously, Deneen, interrupt us and chime in on that commentary. We're going to have our back and forth in the process, but we want to insert any questions or comments that come from all of the attendees. The stuff that you're thinking, the stuff that you have commentary around is extraordinarily important for us on these types of presentations. So that's some of the logistics piece.
Yeah, challenges. So if you've got challenges, like, you know, and you're finding that you're not having success on social, or you're giving up on social, you're spending money and not getting any results, like, we want to hear that stuff, because that's the stuff that, you know, maybe we can give you, you know, the secret sauce to fixing that.
And our effort today in our back and forth banter is to provide you some sort of foundation, maybe a paradigm shift in how you're approaching or thinking about social. And I'm going to take a very confident stab in the dark and say that there's some of you that are on this call, there are some of you in the audience that are very well versed in social, and any commentary you provide only goes to sharpen my sword and Jack's sword. We are both extraordinarily active and have had great success around the concept of social selling, social media, being of value, being an asset out there in social circles. And so again, we hope to provide that information to you. Your feedback is obviously essential. So without further ado, the agenda here. Kind of in encapsulating this particular strategy, moving away from simply just throwing noodles up against the wall to see what sticks as far as social media is concerned, and even moving further away from individuals saying, oh yeah, you know what, we've done social, we do social, you know, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, so on and so forth, Instagram, Pinterest, fill in the blank, and we just had limited to no success. So the idea here is paradigm shift, rethink the way you're doing this, and hopefully catapult you into kind of a new realm of, or towards, actual success with this. So how are we structuring this? So building long-lasting relationships, right? And all of us probably think and know in our own personal anecdotes how we've built our existing relationships, our personal relationships, right? And this agenda sort of mirrors that, and that's the approach we're taking with social media engagement, right? Finding that one first, nurturing that relationship, further knowing when to pop the question, and then keeping the fires alive, right? Now, this can be positioned not only, well, certainly with leads, contacts, suspects, prospects, etc., and more so with clients and moving them forward to being long-lasting existing clients, or just contacts that you can leverage for referrals, contacts that you can further leverage for expertise in sharpening your own sword. So agenda here, commentary from you, Jack, on this before we kickstart this off?
No, I mean, you know, let's try to make it fun, right? I'm a storyteller, so you know, you've heard these boring, you know, webinars about social engagement, you know, the same old fluffy crap. We don't want to do that, right? We want to give you something that you can leave with, you know, inspire you, give you some, you know, good tips, call to actions, and things that you can leave here with and actually get a result. So that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, we've both had great success, and I'm certainly not, and I know Jack's not one, you know, to trumpet our own horn and, you know, jump up and down and, hey, you know, look at all of this cool, awesome success that we've had, and more so that, hey, we've had success doing it this particular way and a variety of other ways, and we're going to provide you some of that, kind of a share and tell for the most part. Deneen, slide. A way to finding the one, and you can keep going to the next, actually the next onesie, maybe twosie. So in pausing and finding the one, and as mentioned, this is a huge paradigm shift for many an organization, right? To this very day, take a look at social circles, right? People simply throwing noodles out there, seeing what sticks, putting out information, not being specific, not being relevant, and quite possibly not necessarily being of value, right? So how do we now, versus throwing the noodles, zero in on individuals inside of organizations, obviously, that we want to target to be eventual clients of ours or eventual solid contacts that we can leverage for referrals. Jack, in finding the one initially, right, strategy around this, how do we approach the finding the one?
Well, you know, I think that a lot of people, the problem with social is that, especially sales or marketing, you know, they get involved in it and then they get lost in it, right? Like, there's so much going on, there's noise, you know, it's really, if you want to find the one, you know, think about it from a relationship standpoint, right? Like, you know, you know, if you're a Catholic, you want a Catholic girl, right? You know, born and raised in the Midwest, you know, went to college, you know, college educated, whatever your criteria is, like, we all had a criteria when we, you know, were looking. Now, not necessarily did we hit, you know, nail it on the dot, right? But I'm sure that, you know, parts of your spouse now, if you're married or you're dating, you know, there's a lot of those elements that you wanted are in your spouse, maybe not all of them. So the best part is knowing who your buyer is. Like, who do you want to have a conversation with, right? Like I want to, if I'm dating, like I only speak English, like I want to probably have an English conversation, right? With somebody that speaks English. So, finding and knowing who you need to talk to is the first step. Most people don't do that. They just are all over the place. Now we got to go figure out, okay, do I want to meet a girl at the bar? Is the bar the best place to go? Well, I mean, I did meet my wife at a bar, I don't know why, but that was usually didn't work out for most people, right? Or am I going to go to Match.com, right? There's two different elements, and understanding who you want to, who you want to date or who you want to have a conversation with, and then finding out where are they, right? Some people might not, have luck on Twitter. Plain and simple. You might be in an industry that's super laggard, and there's you just can't find conversations. I'm okay with that. Then go to LinkedIn, right? If you're in B2B, because there's people, everybody's on LinkedIn or at least trying. But the idea is spend your time where your buyers are, know who your buyers are, so that you can pull the data, and then you can actually have a targeted attack into the data through accounts, right? So figure out what accounts you're targeting, and then you go through and identify the social contacts within those accounts. So now we've got a systematic way driven by data, because if you can pull all that data, right? And then we figure out, okay, who are the most social people in these accounts? There's, you can look at like cloud, you can use all kinds of different tools to do that. Once we've got that, then we need to take a number, right? A targeted number. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong on social. It's like you're not going to prospect from a marketing or a sales perspective 200 accounts at one time on social. Absolutely not going to happen. You'll never have success. You'll be lost. So get targeted, right? 10 accounts maybe, right? If you're in sales, take 10 accounts, figure out 3 social contacts within those accounts, and put together a value versus ask strategy, right? Value versus asks means that you're going to leverage 3 things. You're going to leverage, creativity, content, and a commitment, right? And a commitment to being buyer-focused, where you're going to go give some value on the front end. Now, what is value, right? That's a big question. The big buzzword is value. Well, I think about value not from a personal perspective. I think about value from a buyer's perspective. So if I'm if I'm selling to marketers, for example, a technology, what are marketers' job? Their job is to generate leads. Their job is to bring more people into the funnel, to get more conversations that they can pass over to sales that are MQL, marketing qualified ready. So if I'm in, sales or marketing and I'm going after my buyer, I've identified them, value to my buyer would be, oh, hey, they just shared a webinar. I know that they need signups and that it's the marketer's job to, and they'll look good if they get more signups for the webinar. And I know that I have a pretty big audience that loves marketing webinars. So I'm going to share their piece of content that goes to their webinar for signups, so that I can maybe help them generate more business, more signups, and help them look better to their boss. And I'm going to do that on all channels, right? Because I want to get valuable and visible. So if I share that on Twitter, I tweet that, I tag them, hey, sign up for this awesome webinar, so-and-so is hosting it, going to be killer content, boom. And now if I go to LinkedIn and share that, tag them, hey, same thing, go to Google+. Now I've gotten visible and valuable 3 times, and if they get signups from it, even better, right? But I'm going to try to do 5 of these different, visibility, value touches, because I look at everything as a touch. In marketing or sales, you got to touch people before you ask them for something, right? You can't call and beg. You can't, people aren't just buying technology and rolling the dice on 10K a year anymore, right? Like we used to get lucky in the old days of SaaS. Those days are over. You'll be lucky if they pick up the phone. So if we get valuable, visible, we can set ourselves apart. And now we look like we're an advocate versus a salesperson or a marketer begging for their data. So being targeted, finding the accounts, understanding who you need to approach, who's going to be valuable to bring into your funnel, finding them, giving them the 5x value, making their day better in some sort of way that nobody else is doing, and then moving that conversation offline, leading with value. Like, this is the whole process. Like, this is really simple. Think about it at a bar, right? If you go to a bar, you have a couple drinks, you look over, you scan the room, you see who fits your buyer persona, your dating persona, and then, maybe you buy them a drink, give the value, right? Like, hey, send that girl over there a drink, right? Or, hey, tell your friend that I want to buy your friend a drink. You do little touches. And then you go in and you ask for the conversation, and then you ask for the number, right? Like, keep this stuff simple. And most people aren't doing that. They're not doing a process. It's not targeted. It's not value focused. It's not buyer focused. And then they, even if they do that stuff, they're getting stuck and they're not going offline, leading with value, which a great way to go offline is introducing a potential client of yours that you see as connected to somebody else, and introducing 2 other buyers that are your prospects in your network, and that's how you lead offline. Hey, I'd love to talk to you. I've got a client that's looking for the technology that you guys offer. You know what, to be honest, I'd love to see what you guys do as well. I've got a huge network of buyers. I can't make a buying decision, but I can tell you right now, if I see anything that would make me think that any of my customers get value, I'm going to warm lead you over and start your relationship like that. Think different. Sales and social allows salespeople to think different, to be quality versus quantity, to be buyer focused. And this is the way I want you to think about all this stuff, because it's not easy, but it is. That's the problem.
Yeah, and you bring up a handful of good points, a couple that I'm just going to kind of touch on and reiterate, right? And we keep mentioning in a joking way, we bring up this bar analogy, right? And the guys or gals that are in there that are the social butterflies that are everywhere, talking to everybody all at once, and fast networking and kind of speed dating and going from place to place to place, and maybe they're regurgitating a lot of the same initial questions, or the exact same line, hey, come here often, or, hey, can I buy you a drink, and can I buy you a drink, and you a drink, and just kind of full-on canvassing the room. Yeah, absolutely. Hee hee ha ha, those guys and gals, well, tend to lose out unless it's like, okay, well, the other analogy is, look, I'm going to talk to, 50 different gals here in this bar or restaurant, and something's got to give, onesie, twosie, I don't know, with the intent of finding the one. All right, it's a lot of hard work and effort, canvassing, social butterfly, so on and so forth. But back to Jack's point, right, thinking about what that buyer persona is, zeroing in on the onesie, twosie, approaching the onesie, twosie with value, right? And the tagline, the tag phrase, love this, Jack, the get valuable, right? And we're not immediately shoving down someone's gullet like our value prop and what we bring to the table and all about our organization. Look at us, us. You want to buy what we have to offer? Absolutely not. And I even further like the approach, because it's extraordinarily effective, is connecting some dots, being a facilitator. I mean, being a networker doesn't necessarily mean, hey, look, I'm shoving my products and services down your gullet, in so much as I'm helping you to be successful too, using my network cross-referencing your network type of a thing. Social, huge. I think LinkedIn and Twitter in and of themselves, completely phenomenal, and makes this type of stuff remarkably easy. So let's back this up with some statistics. Deneen, slide. Interestingly enough, 75% of customers, social media is part of their buying process. This is a no-brainer for all of you. Smiles, smirks, nods, etc. We end up out on social, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Yelp, fill in the blank, right? Looking for peer reviews, cocktail clashes with peers of ours. Hey, have you used this? Have you used that? What are your thoughts on this? Have you had some success with that? Time and time again, I get CMOs calling and saying, hey, a CMO counterpart of mine over at XYZ organization is using your products, that I should take a look, right? So this peer review part of the whole entire process is huge. And where are they finding that? Well, heck, we all know. Put our consumer hat on. 100% of this exists out on social, and we as customers are using this, leveraging this information as part of our buying process. Keep that in mind. The next statistic, 50 to 70% of the buying process happens before salespeople get involved, right? And I would anticipate that 50 to 70% is significantly higher. More often now, and it's getting even, it increases as months turn to half years turn to years, right? That we're 3/4, if not almost at the very tail end of the sales cycle before a sales guy or gal even are engaging with individuals wanting our products and services. Interesting. Jack, commentary on any of that?
Yeah, so, statistics or whatever, I mean, I think we all get it, from a value perspective of adoption. But the problem is that the buyers are doing their research, and, if you're in marketing, and I'm guessing, most of the people on here are marketers. So one of the biggest problems that you have in marketing and sales today is the fact that there's a disconnect in the fact that marketing is doing their job, right, and they're, targeting their accounts, but a lot of times they're targeting the middle layer of decision makers in the account, right? Because typically that's, not marketing's fault, it's just they're sending the same message to the CEO or the decision makers, but they're not, the CEOs aren't responding, but you've got, the middle of the line, manager, director, whatever, they're actually, they're more responsive, right? So great, you get them, in the funnel. If you're using marketing automation, you're using Acton, you get them to the lead score that you need them. You pass them over to SDR or sales team, and then what happens, right? Brandon, the appointment's set, the demo's set. Great. Well, now what's happened is marketing has started at the top of the funnel, and they brought the prospect through the funnel with content education, and then where sales is inserted and gets that first connection with the middle decision maker is in the middle of the funnel. It's at the top of the middle of the funnel, right? So there's two problems with that. One is that sales didn't start at the top with the buyer, right, with marketing. So marketing sent out the message, but sales wasn't proactive and went out and connected a month before we got to that lead score. Sales wasn't visible and valuable a month before this appointment got set. So what happens is now that the buyer's down here and sales comes in, it's like sales is starting at the top of the funnel, marketing's at the middle of the funnel, and who gets screwed on that, right? The buyer. Because now sales comes in and they know nothing about the buyer, right? Well, even worse is now sales is mad at marketing because marketing just got them an MQL lead with somebody that can't make a decision, but they have to demo, right? So if you think about how social can eliminate the problem of salespeople being mad at marketing people because they're getting marketing qualified leads, sales is doing, or marketing doing their job, they're bringing people through the funnel, they're passing them over, the demo is getting set. Well, I can tell you right now we can eliminate all the pain in the world if sales started at the top with marketing. As the marketing message went out, sales went and got valuable, visible, and then got connected at the top of the middle of the funnel, and then by the time they got to the top of the middle of the top of the funnel, and by the time they got connected and they get an MQL and that lead score hits, bam! Now this marketing person or the prospect already knows who that salesperson is because they've already connected with them on Twitter. They've already connected with them on LinkedIn, right? And even better is that if it's done correctly, sales is connected with a decision maker at the top of the funnel or two decision makers within that organization, and now they come in, and even if the demo is set with the middle of the line, sales is already visible and valuable with the decision makers within that organization, so they already have some power and some pull and have already done kind of the education and are connected. That's the disconnect. No salespeople are connected to their buyers, and they're not even talking to the right people at the middle of the funnel, and they can't figure out why they're never getting deals, and marketing can't figure out why they're mad. You've got to start with the buyer. You've got to get connected. You've got to get visible. You've got to get valuable first, and then you move into the middle of the funnel and do that demo. But you've got to start at the top while you're connected.
And this, you bring up something extraordinarily valuable and important, right? Because, historically social is, social media broadcast, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, fill in the blank with whatever the channel, man. That's marketing's bailiwick, man. I'm a sales pro. Give me the leads, line up the leads, I'm going to close them. Leave all of that social stuff to marketing, right? So am I correct in saying that, hey, look, as a sales pro, it very well may be in the best interest of your pocketbook to get involved in social, to be out there, to be a social advocate, to be valuable to the buying community, or what? You know, this getting involved at the top of the funnel, man. That's marketing's role, man, not mine.
Okay, well, I'll tell you right now, if you're in sales and you're in the 80% of people that don't hit quota, which I'm sure there's a lot of those, or you're in marketing and you're dealing with the 80% of the salespeople that don't hit quota, and they're, you know, yelling at you about whatever you're doing. Well, here's why. It's because, you know, A, you're begging people to buy your product who don't even know who you are. You have no relationship with these people other than you did a really killer pitch when the demo was set at the middle of the funnel. And I'm telling you right now, pitches don't close deals, especially in B2B anymore.
Not anymore.
There's no such thing as a good pitch, right? I mean, yeah, you could have a bad, I would say you'd have a bad pitch, but even a good pitch, you know, I think right now what happens, especially in SaaS, and tell me if I'm wrong, Brandon, most sales reps, you know, the meeting's won, they killed the meeting, and as soon as they hung up the phone, the deal was lost, right? For one simple reason. A, they're not at the right person that could ever make a decision. B, they're not there at the right time. These people aren't ready to make that purchase decision. You know, C, they don't know what to do next. When that phone hangs up, they don't know what to do in those 2-week period to stay valuable and visible and keep that buyer inspired before the next call to the decision maker, or when they're supposed to get the next call to the decision maker. So if you want to eliminate all that crap that that's happening in the funnel with marketing and sales, then you know what? Both start at the top, and honestly, it doesn't take a lot of time to, you know, share some, engage a little bit on social, 45 minutes a day. If sales knows what accounts marketing is going after, and they're educating and that they're, you know, nurturing, and sales can get up there and they can start there, and they can just, you know, slowly through, you know, once a week or twice a week, touch those accounts, especially if you're doing mid-market enterprise. You're not closing that many deals anyways. But let's be honest, you got a bunch of fluff in your pipeline. You know, take the 10, 20 accounts that mean a lot, that can help you hit your quota, that have the right buyer persona, and spend the time on the front end, give the 5x value, so on the back end, you're valuable and connected to the right people that can make a decision, and you're halfway through the sales process before you even have the demo.
Good stuff. Absolutely. So let's get into some no-brainers. Deneen, slide, please. So, you know, smiles, smirks. Okay, fine. Where do we begin? I'm going to give you 2 of the most effective, right? And for the most part, I'm going to assume we've got savvy marketeers on the phone in the audience. These are the definite starting blocks, obviously. LinkedIn and Twitter, right? In optimizing a LinkedIn account and optimizing a Twitter account. For me personally, and Jack, you can provide further commentary, there's a good chunk of information there about me on LinkedIn, but there's also a lot of value to whomever is showing up to my LinkedIn account about products and services that I offer. You know, a get to know Brandon, but an also the organization comfortable kind of a compromise of what Brandon is representing, who he works for, the value that's brought to the table by the particular product and service, right? Now, truth be told, my LinkedIn account, not only because of the value that I'm broadcasting of others, the sharing that I do of people that I'm connected with, post in a variety of verticals, but my LinkedIn account has generated and continues to generate great contacts, great connections, great conversations, and business, back to the pocketbook piece, and a lot of great kudos and feedback that I get. Hey, not really a lot about you, Brandon, but certainly I get a lot of value about products and services that you offer. I can do, you know, a lot of the peer reviews and the shopping about Act-On your LinkedIn account. Huge. And
but even bigger, you know what, Brandon, even bigger is, you know, people think about the prospecting aspect of social selling. And I'm going to tell you right now that I don't think prospecting is the value of social selling. Like, personally, I think that's called social data mining, right? So, yeah. You know, anybody's going to have the common sense to know that they should probably go where the data is to find their buyers, okay? But here's where a lot of salespeople go wrong. Okay, fine. Don't spend the time prospecting on social. But what I'll tell you is that what's going to happen when the SDR does sit that demo, you do kill that sales pitch, and you do the right things through the sales process, is if it's competitive, which 152% it's competitive, and if you don't think it is, you are in big trouble, especially if you're selling B2B technology. The one thing the buying committee, right, not the one buyer, not the one decision maker, because those days are over, the 6 decision makers that you're running the demo with that are going to decide who they go with, they all 6 are coming to your LinkedIn profile, and they're all 6 going to your competitor's LinkedIn profile, and they're going to look at your credibility. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to lose deals, or if you're losing deals and you can't figure out why, every time you're in a competitive deal, you killed the pitch, and you got your LinkedIn profile looks like you're a used car salesman. Sorry if there's any used car salesman, but like if it just looks non-credible, you have no recommendations, and you have no clients that have ever recommended that you have a great product and that you're a heck of a salesperson that's got the best customer service they've ever dealt with, or you have no endorsements, you don't have, they can't see your previous jobs, they can't see what your history is, you're not an expert, they look at you as just the guy or gal trying to sell them another technology, but they look at the competitor as the expert and the one that's getting customers' results. I mean, think of credibility. Like, salespeople, your voice is not your credibility. Nobody cares about what you told them because half the salespeople, buyers don't believe. So your credibility now is your online presence, and social plays a huge role in that. So if anything, get on LinkedIn so that when your buyers want you to be visible and valuable, maybe you're not going to them to be visible and valuable, but they're coming to you, and you better be visible and valuable just from a freaking credibility standpoint from LinkedIn, and I would say Twitter too. People are looking at your Twitter profiles now, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. So a couple interesting factoids there. 5x more likely to schedule a first meeting, personalized style LinkedIn profile. And then with regard to Twitter, and again, smiles, nods from the audience, your Twitter account, B2B marketers who use Twitter, 2x as many leads as those that do not. And again, well, back the truck up just a skosh, in so much as we're not presenting to you this entire pizza pie, either from the marketing aspect or the sales aspect, right? These are a couple of slices, right? Social is representing a couple of slices of the whole entire marketing pizza pie and or sales prospecting pizza pie. That's, you probably knew that or assumed that, but certainly, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Any other commentary here before we get into the next part, which is now that we have found the one and zeroed in on the one and had this interaction with the one, the nurturing aspect. Any further commentary here?
One last piece, and I think you covered it a little bit earlier, but conversations drive everything we do in business, right? They drive the sale, they drive the revenue, they drive the referral, they drive the the complaint. So I would tell you that if you're a traditional mindset marketer who says social has no value, or your traditional sales mindset, think about this. You've got phone and email, or you're doing some paid advertising. That's great. So you're working a one-to-one relationship. And I can tell you that if you're in sales right now and you're trying to stuff your pipeline with a one-to-one mentality, you are, even if you're crushing your quota, then you're really killing yourself, because you should be double crushing your quota. And if you're not hitting your quota, well, I mean, that means you either A, suck at sales, or which could happen, or marketing's giving you crappy leads, which could happen. But you got to go deep in that. There's channels. Every time you give yourself visibility on a channel, you open up yourself to more buyers, to more opportunities, at more conversations. You give yourself more resources to be valuable, right? You give yourself more insight to your buyer data. You get more insight into how you should be doing your messaging. You get more insight into who you're dealing with as a buyer. What type of buyer are they? I mean, the insight and data alone that social gives you from a marketing and sales perspective is a no-brainer. Regardless if you just analyze the data, fine. But I'll tell you right now, don't be asking people for anything unless you spent some time on the front end to know what makes them tick, what's important to them, and it's got to be outside of your product. Because I'll tell you right now, think about you as a buyer. If you're a marketer, you're buying technologies yourself. Think about all the crappy messaging you get, all the crappy calls you get, all the crappy marketing messages you get. And if you're in sales, go through your sent email inbox and look at all the crappy emails you've sent to your buyers that have never gotten a response, right? You know, all the things that you're doing wrong. You've got to come to the conclusion. And a lot of times, the only reason you're doing it wrong is because you don't have any data and you're guessing what the buyer wants to hear. Quit guessing what the buyer wants to hear and go research what you know they want to hear. And a lot of times if you eliminate your product out of that messaging, it's very crazy how responsive people are when you talk to them about their sports team, or you talk to them, you send them a receipt and send them their favorite restaurant that they just tweeted about. Use data and use it. The old adage in sales was, get the buyer to answer the questions and use their answers against them. Well, the social way of doing this is use the social data from their own words against them to give them so much value that when you call and ask them or you email and ask them, they couldn't tell you no.
Love it, love it. Which brings us, you know, we've kind of tap danced around for the most part. Now let's go headlong into this next portion, which is the nurturing aspect, which in my mind is the largest, most important. I mean, this has to be done. This has to be done right. And we've got some tools and strategies here around rethinking this nurturing process. Again, we could give the personal anecdote, you know, after the initial meeting and, you know, you got to someone's attention and you had the initial conversation, how do we go about kind of nurturing this to the next step, more of a get to know ya as best as possible? Factoid, 72% of salespeople using social outperform those that did not. And again, we very well have sales pros on this call. Probably most are marketeers. Fill in the blank with the position, right? Truth be told, that social, obviously, we're driving the point home here, is not just the marketing team's responsibility. This goes across all job titles. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had on social with CFOs, right? You think the CFO might be the last person to have some sort of, engagement on social, or let alone, and sorry CFOs, be engaging on social. But yeah, absolutely. So slide here.
At the end of the day, the CFO makes the decision. If you started the CFO in sales, you're doing a dang good job, I'll tell you that much.
Right, absolutely. Slide, Deneen. All right, the nurturing prospect, extraordinarily important. Maybe a no-brainer, but we're going to expand on most of these. Checking for company updates and relevant content, right? Do you know, short of intimately, do you know that organization to whom you're selling? Are you updated on the latest news? This stuff is easy to find, right? Information on a funding round, information on them opening up a new office, information on them breaking ground in a new territory, etc. Feedback on this, Jack. Company updates and relevant content as it relates to prospective organizations.
Nurturing is huge, right? Like, if you don't do anything with like social or your social selling, then I would say, maybe you want to start super simple. Start at the nurturing piece, right? Take all the conversations you've had, all the great demos, figure out who the contacts that are in those accounts that are social. Identify those. That's not hard to do, right? You can do an advanced search, Boolean search on Twitter. You can do an advanced LinkedIn Boolean search, and you can pull the decision makers in that account. Now, what most salespeople don't realize is, and most marketers as well, is that you might have marketed to one contact within that account, but they're not a decision maker, or they're only one of the decision makers. So the problem is you've got a lot of work to make up on sales and marketing in that sales process, because you've done the first demo with one person, but there's 5 people making the buying decision. you now have to go get visible and value in front of the other 4 until that next call happens, right? Because, if you had you're selling to a marketer or let's say you're selling marketing and you've got a director of marketing that you ran the demo with, but they've got a CMO, right? Who the director of marketing's got to get you into, plus the CFO and the CEO are going to be on the call. What are you doing in the nurturing aspect to make sure that when you get on that call, you've done some value touches to get visible and valuable with that CEO, with that CMO, and with whoever else is the decision maker in the account. So just use that little piece, right, from call to call of the sales process to nurture your way to stay visible and valuable to the person you have that demo with, to keep them inspired. Look for if they've had company updates or they made the 500, tag them in it, share it, share their webinars. If they did content on LinkedIn Pulse, there's nothing more personal and it's inspiring, and there's nothing more exciting than when somebody shares your passionate piece of content that you put a lot of time and energy into, and you share it to your network. They see that, you engage, you ask questions, you bring people into the conversation, because if you do that, what are you doing? You're giving your buyer or potential buyer a shot at getting new business and bringing more buyers into their conversation to stuff their conversation pipeline. Like, at this point, everybody wins. We're all just stuffing our conversation pipelines, right? Like, that's what I think about every day in sales. Like, I don't care how many dials I made. I don't care how many tweets I sent. I care about how many conversations I had. And I don't care if they're even selling conversations. I just want conversations. I want to be connected. I want new people into my audience. I want new people into my sales funnel, into my network funnel. Conversations stuff everywhere, because if you're having tons of conversations and you're doing it with the right people and you're leading with value, revenue will follow. It's a science of life and sales.
Yeah. Go ahead, Janine.
Oh, we have a question. They were asking, so it says, you haven't gotten to this yet, but the value, adding value by commenting, is there such a thing as too much commenting or only liking? And, what's the ratio of commenting to liking that they should be looking for?
Well, I mean, that's common sense. Like, some of this stuff is common sense, right? And I don't mean that to be like, mean, but when I say common sense, I'm saying, think about it from your perspective. If it's non-genuine, there's a super, sales motive behind like, comment. I mean, dude, there comes a point where you're like, okay, you're not adding value, you're annoying me, and you're making it super, it's obviously well known that you're just trying to sell me, and you can do the opposite effect. So be natural about it, right? I mean, if you've got 3 social contacts in an account you're working, maybe every 3 days, every day you touch one of those contacts from a value perspective, liking, commenting, engaging, and then you move on the next day to the next contact, and then over time, right, maybe over a week's period, you say, okay, I've marked off 3 X's, I've got connected. Now I'm going to figure out, okay, of the 3 contacts that I got connected and visible and valuable with, which one was the most social, which one was the most engaged, and which one gave me the best data to lead with value and go offline, right? Be smart, and be smart. It's the motive drives everything in sales. Whether you're cold calling, whether you're emailing, social is just the same thing, right? Like, what's your motive when you do social? Are you genuinely trying to be buyer focused and help your buyers and think of creative ways to help them generate more business and kind of earn that right? Or are you going in as a spammy salesman who sends the spam email, gives the 30-second sell, I don't care about you pitch? Are you doing the same thing on social? Then you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong, and the recipient is going to see right through that. I mean, Jack said this is common sense, and for me, absolutely. I tend to be a simpleton, right? And again, this is not the opportunity to respond to someone's blog post or to respond to a post and position your product and service. That's not what we're talking about here. Jack touched on 2 very good points. Are you genuine and sincere in your commentary? Right? Are you replying back? Are you commenting on something that you read because it, I don't know, moved you in such a way to write us something? take your products and services out just for, you know, the first initial post. We'll get there eventually, maybe, quite possibly, if you're genuine and sincere. And then again, also, in kind of this commonsensical simpleton Brandon approach, engage and be engaging as well. There's this thing about, you know, just likes. Okay, fine. That's engagement, right? But some level of commentary. I really care about what you're thinking and what you say to my post, right? And oh, by the way, my ask of you is to be significantly more positive. And again, the genuine nature, the sincerity is huge, and that's going to move the needle. All of us have been in the trenches of social and have seen all of the, you know, negativity, and somebody, you know, has a great blog post about something, and there's some naysayers that are out there, and these people shoving products and services, and you know what? Engage, be engaging, don't overthink this, be genuine and sincere. Right? And I don't know if there's an accurate, there's not a best practice statistic on how many more likes versus posts, or how many more likes versus comments, right? What moves you? What do you feel how do you feel you want to respond? Be positive. Be genuine, be sincere, be engaging.
Be patient. And you know what? Be patient. You know,
huge.
Just like anything else, I mean, you know, in sales, we have to, you know, qualify in and qualify out. Like, in marketing, you have to qualify a lead in, qualify a lead out, right? So on social, you kind of have to do the same thing, right? You have to say, okay, you know, I've got great engagement, I'm at the right level, and you know what? I'm going to move offline, because even if they can't, you know, I'm not even talking about my product in the first place, you know, but even if they can't buy it right now, or it's not a good fit, I'm going to add this conversation, this relationship into my future funnel, right? Because there is a proactive versus reactive mentality that has to start happening with sales and marketing. You know, the now, buy, you know, we're just going to nurture them a little bit with some content, and then we're going to give them the salesperson they're going to buy. Those days are over. Like, it doesn't happen. And if it does, it's because they're already looking, they've already done the research, and they've come to you most likely. Those are the deals you're getting that happen right away. But in sales, got to stuff your proactive pipeline with, you know, people that aren't ready to buy right now, or don't know they want to buy yet, or aren't, you know, they're not big enough to buy your product yet. You know, get those relationships started early so that, you know, you can influence who they come to when they are ready, or influence who they're going to refer when their friend that's in the startup world as well, or in the, you know, SaaS world, is recommending somebody. I mean, you've got to do this stuff. It's just common sense, and it's starting to feel like, you know, marketing and sales has lost that aspect of their job.
And the ridiculous bright side to a lot of this is that the organizations that have this tight alignment with sales and marketing and an actual, you know, call it this social practice, this social philosophy, and they're seeing eye to eye, and they're tracking similarly, these organizations are killing it. Their sales pros are destroying quota, they're crushing quota, marketing is serving up better quality leads, they're on the same page. Further, truth be told, backed by statistics and analytics, there's not a lot. The overwhelming majority of organizations aren't lined up like this. They're just not. So that's a great opportunity for those of us that want to push the needle. And I don't know, man, pushing the needle, get lined up, get social, engage, be engaging. Marketing's doing it. Certainly sales should be doing it, right? This nurturing prospect. Let me continue, because I want to be conscious of time too, and I want to make we just got a couple small handful more slides to get through. Along with the nurturing, the monitoring, right? This is the real connectivity here, right? I'm talking to you. Who are you talking to? What are you sharing? What organizations' information are you posting? Engage with that information. Who's viewing my profile? Do we have followers in common? Fill in the blank of the variety of social platforms that are out there that can tell me commonalities in all of this, right?
Hey, Brandon,
Jack?
I'm going to stop you real quick. So one of the things we haven't talked about, which I want to make sure we hit, is, you know, content creates conversation. So one of the things on social that I feel like marketing is terrible at right now, and if you don't believe me, go through your social feed right now and look at the crap content that's in your LinkedIn feed, right? Like, look at all the crappy Twitter content in your Twitter feed. Like, you literally have to fight the noise, and maybe that's the frustrating part for a lot of people on social, is they don't want to go through all the crap to get to the goal. And I don't blame you, right? So, if you want to stand out in marketing and you want to stand out in sales, be the driver of amazing industry content. Like, you want to start conversation? I've done this. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I will tell you right now that I post the hottest content in sales, the hottest content in social, the hottest content in digital marketing, and I don't post crap. Because I'll tell you right now that I look at content as credibility now. The people that post the good stuff know what they're talking about. Those are the industry experts. Those are the people I want to buy from. Those are the people I want to be connected to. And in sales and marketing, your brand has to set the standard of what the quality is that you bring to your customer or to your buyer. And I'll tell you right now, if you're posting content just to drive leads all the time on social, you're dead on social. Like, nobody cares about you, right? Nobody's going to, I'm telling you, long term, it's a terrible strategy. But if you are the brand that is, not only sharing your buyer's content, right, finding good quality content, sharing good industry expert content, right, like you're going to the tech crunches and you're finding, when an article releases, you're using BuzzSumo and you're posting something about your industry before anybody else can do it. You're using the hashtags in your industry so that you show up every time a good article comes. People will start to be attracted to you because of one reason, because they know that they can depend on you to be better at their job, to get the information that they need, to evolve. The best is when the executives are coming to you, right? Like, I have a bunch of executives that come and read my stuff all the time that either I write or I share, right? And you don't even have to create content. But use the competitive advantage of content, because I'll tell you, it takes a little bit of time. It's not going to happen overnight, but your strategy long term, if you think of your social feeds from a marketing perspective and sales perspective as a drip campaign like you would do an email, and you think about it, like, would you ever send a crappy email? Like, I mean, I'm sure you do, but, is a crappy email ever effective? Just like a crappy piece of content in your social feed is not effective. It doesn't start conversation. It doesn't drive action. And the thing is, if you realize that you'll get more engagement and conversation and recognition and visibility and value by sharing a potential buyer's good content on your feed than you'll ever get sharing your own content on your feed. Like, wake up. Like, you want to prospect an account, you want to generate a lead. Okay, here's an idea. Become an advocate and take their content, share it on your channel, give them access to your audience at the potential of buying, getting into conversation, and generating more business. Like, start thinking buyer first. The we, not me mentality, because 98% of companies right now are all about me, but they want we. That doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. You've got to think about this stuff with strategy. Strategy is key, and being buyer-focused with your strategy is the ultimate key to actually getting success and being long-term.
Yeah, slide, Deneen. Let's move over to, now that we've found the one and we've done some nurturing, this last piece of, knowing when to ask, knowing when to pop the question. Interestingly enough, in my day-to-day on social, rarely is, popping the question could be a variety of things, right? Popping the question to move this off of social channels and into a phone conversation or a face-to-face meeting. That's a form of popping the question. Popping the question can also be, getting down to the point where we're opening it up for conversation about products and services. We both want to go there eventually after all of this has successfully taken place. So knowing when to ask. Flip the slide again, Deneen, please. So personalization here. Right? No-brainer for most of us, and I know smiles and nods from the audience. Adding individuals on LinkedIn with a personalized message, not the one that says the standard bottled and canned, I saw your profile, I want to add you type of a thing. Liking their company page, lots of retweets and ads on Twitter, probably not retweets ad nauseum, but certainly retweets, and then strategic posts where we're mentioning prospective, these individuals that we have found and nurtured and we've been monitoring, strategic posts that are going to get their attention, that are going to call them out. The popping the question, Jack, right? The when to ask, what to ask for, and then where to go. Commentary.
Sixth sense, like, you've got to understand relationships, right? And I can't give you the psychology of relationships, but I can tell you that do you understand your buyers well enough to know what their buying behaviors are, or their the triggers, right? I mean, everything we do in marketing is trigger based, right? It's a workflow and automated marketing automation, or it's a a process in sales. We call email, and we get them on the phone, and we hear something, and we say, okay, we're going to try to force them into a demo, or they're going to go into the demo. One thing that people don't understand about social selling is that there is a point that you can do too much, right? And you're wasting time. So you've got to understand to say, okay, I'm focused on these accounts. Nobody's really, I'm doing the engaging piece, I'm liking, and I'm, sharing, and I'm, not getting anything back. Perfect. Throw that out and put it in the traditional bucket, right? You're only using social, in my opinion, to be proactive versus reactive and targeted on a certain amount of accounts. Everything else, outside of those accounts you're focused on is kind of stuffing the conversation pipeline early, right? You're not really thinking about all that. You just know you have to do it in the long run. But the focus 10 accounts, you've got to make sure you're spending the time with the right people. And then there comes a point, right? Like I like to give each contact an X, right? Put it on a whiteboard if you want to be simple. 10 accounts, 30 contacts. Mark off the X. After 3 X's, I have to lead with value. I have to get connected. After 5 X's, I have to go offline, right? I can't put any more X's on the board because every time I put an X, I've done the work. I've been visible. I've been valuable. I've been trying to help them. I'm trying to do everything for them. Now I got to move offline. And here's the kicker. You have to decide how you're going to move offline. And that is something that is creative strategy that you have to think about using their social data. Hey, I know that they wrote a post about X, Y, and Z. Do I ask them, and we've been engaged, and answer some questions, should I move offline and say, hey, let's discuss your piece of content further because I genuinely want to know more about this because it's a part of my industry, and I can lead with value and get to know them and actually probably do some discovery by asking them about their content of whether, and they don't even know it because I'm talking about them, to see if I should even ask them for a demo, right, or a presentation. But then there gets a point where you do have to ask for, you have to say, listen, I know that there's value here. Hey, after everything I've heard, we've had a lot of engagement. Like, I would love to see, you to see what we do. I'd love to get your feedback because I think that there's 2 or 3 ways that we could really help your business, be more efficient. And, just give me a shot. I'm telling you I'm not wasting your time, and move them offline. Like, you have to sell at one point. Like, it doesn't take selling out of the equation.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're in a round room looking for a corner. We're having a boatload of conversations, but we're not moving the needle. So it's the popping the question, and then what to do after the question, after the yes of the conversation, right? And then keeping the fires alive is the last less than 60 seconds of our prezo. One more time there, Janine. Interestingly enough, Forrester, our friends, 6 times more costly to acquire a new customer than keep an existing one. Yes, the smiles and the nods there, right? Continually, still to this day, clients of ours, clients of mine that have been clients for a number of years, we continue to share each other's content. I continue to evangelize their products and services and the personal content that they put out, right, on a variety of subjects, right? Not necessarily just business related, but a lot of it's like more personal related, what they're into, wakeboarding, water skiing, right, their football team, so on and so forth. I mean, the relationships have gotten, very friendship-esque over that period of time, right? These are lifelong contacts of mine, thank goodness, that I've, again, gone through the process of finding the one, the nurturing and the monitoring, and they eventually, some long sales cycles, some short sales cycles, eventually became clients, and again, evangelizing each other. Jack? Yeah,
I mean, this is a no-brainer, right? I mean, your customers should be like your family. It should be, you should not even have to think about the fact that you're going to advocate for them once they become your customer and they become your family. This is a no-brainer, and it makes me sick when I see salespeople and brands from a marketing perspective not supporting the customers that are paying their paychecks. So just do it.
Yeah, yeah. Which leads us to our very, very last slide. Your friends over at Tech Advisors, social media, certainly marketing, CRM implementation, the like. There's the little plug. Deneen has been your host, myself and Jack. One more slide, Deneen. Questions or comments?
We are a little bit over time, but I do want to address one question here. Which one of these? There's quite a few. Is social media advertising worthwhile?
Not if you don't have an audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, any
can it be a way to build an audience? I mean, look, I wouldn't necessarily advocate an organization going into any type of social media ad buy without first formulating the strategy, as well as building that audience with content of their own, with engagement of their own, prior to a spend, right?
Figure out the human one element of social before you spend any money on it from an advertising perspective. That's what I'll say, because you'll never get results. Just plain and simple.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and I want to address one more question. How valuable do you find Google Plus to be for business posting as opposed to Twitter, Facebook? Is one better than the others?
Use them all. Just spend less time on Google Plus. I wouldn't say Google Plus is a great place for engagement, but it's a great place to get visibility and drive traffic to your site from your content.
Yeah, agree. I find myself just personally posting more on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Content according to channel. Okay, fine. Google Plus, certainly with my organization's content, the engagement there has not been all of that stuff for page ranking, increasing page ranking of blog posts and the like. Huge. And of course, therein lies the diamond that is Google. Perfect. Do we have another slide showing off our friendly faces again, or no?
No, but I can go back to the beginning.
No, that's fine. Thank you all for being a part of today's webinar. It's my thought with the utmost amount of confidence. We produced a couple of gems here for you. Thanks for listening. Thank you for the questions. Our contact information, this webinar will be made available via recording, and our contact information is in there. Tweet us, like our content, all of those things. Jack, always a pleasure, man, for speaking with you. You and I will be talking again soon. Thanks for agreeing to present today.
Yeah, reach out and tweet me. Me or Brandon, I love to tweet. So if you want to ask questions, or let's do it. Let's tweet.
There you go. All right, Deneen, thanks as always for hosting. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.